So today we are working on 15B, which is writing the equation of a line. Our content objective is students will be able to write the equation of a line given a point and a slope. Language objective is students will be able to explain in words the point-slope equation. Why am I learning this? Well, it's important for many real-life problems like representing the cost of placing a newspaper ad. So first things first, we're going to go over some background knowledge as usual. Here, if I were asked to find the equation of the line in slope-intercept form, what I would need to do is find the y-intercept, which in this case is at -2, which is right here. It's 0, -2. That's why b is -2. And the slope is a positive 2 over 1, so that will become 2. So here, if I wanted to turn it into slope-intercept form, I just need to put it into y equals mx plus b, and my equation would be y equals 2x minus 2. Same idea here. First, I have to find the y-intercept, which is -3. Then I need to find out the slope, which is a -1 over 1, 2, 3. So my equation following this form would be y equals -1/3 x minus 3. So now, what happens if it looks like this? The first thing you would have to do is find the y-intercept. But the problem is it's not a nice whole number. It's not an integer. So we need a different method. We can't just guess and say, oh, that's about 1.7. That's not good enough. So what could we do? Well, we can use something called the point-slope equation. Whenever you're asked to write the equation of a line, you should use point-slope equation. It's called point slope. Why? Because you need at least one point and the slope. So point slope looks like this. You're going to do y minus y sub 1 equals the slope times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So what's going to happen is you're going to go ahead and replace y sub 1 and x sub 1 with your point, which we know is written as x comma y, which is called the point. And then the other thing that you're going to replace is m, which is your slope. So real quick, let's remind ourselves how to find slope. So first things first, we're given two ordered pairs. We need to remember our slope formula, which is essentially the difference in y's over the difference in x's, because it's vertical change over horizontal change. And a key thing we always want to a more simplified version of this may be delta y over delta x. So basically this means the difference in y's over the difference in x's, and a key rule to remember is you always do second minus first in order to figure out what the change is. So here I'm going to go ahead and label my x's and my y's, the first x's and y's, the second x's and y's. So using my formula here, I'm going to go ahead and do second y minus the first y. So 9 minus 5, which is 4. And then for the x's, same thing, second x minus the first x, which is also 4. So here I would say the slope is 1. So hopefully that kind of brings some memories back and you kind of remember what the slope is and what the formula looks like. Okay, so now let's take a look at our first problem. So it says here, write the equation in slope-intercept form that passes through -2, 6 and the slope of 3. So first thing is, let's recognize this is my point. So I'm going to go ahead and label it x sub 1, y sub 1. And this is our slope. So I'm going to go ahead and label it m. So notice since we have a point and we have a slope, I'm going to go ahead and use point slope form. So the key thing about today's lesson is you are going to have to commit this to memory. You're going to have to memorize and be able to recall it. It's going to be y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace x sub 1, y sub 1, and m. So here I'm going to go ahead and replace these three terms with boxes so that I know something is going to go to replace those values. So y sub 1 is going to be replaced with a 6, m is going to be replaced with a 3, and x sub 1 is going to be replaced with a -2. Now here's where you're going to have to double check. Do you have to distribute? Here -6 is fine. Here, I don't want to do a minus -2, so I am going to distribute a negative times a negative, which would turn it to positive. So now I have y minus 6 equals 3 times the quantity x plus 2 instead of minus negative. So this is what we would refer to as point slope form. Okay, it looks exactly like this, but these values are replaced with numbers. But this is not what they're asking us for. They're asking us for slope-intercept form. So I need that to look like the following: y equals mx plus b. So I need to isolate y by adding 6. Got ahead of myself. I need to first go ahead and distribute this 3 to both terms, leaving me with y minus 6 equals 3x plus 6. Now I can go ahead and isolate y by adding 6 to both sides. This is going to become 0, leaving me with y equals 3x plus 12. So this is your slope-intercept form where our slope is 3 and b is 12. Will you be asked to do this on the homework? Not necessarily, but I want you to still be able to recognize what each variable represents. Okay, so now let's talk about the different forms we've learned already. We've recently talked about standard form, which is ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are integers. They're not fractions and they're not decimals. The oldest one we've talked about is slope-intercept form. This is a nice form to graph. It makes it quick and easy. And then we have point slope form. This is the newest one, and this is, again, the one that you're going to have to learn to commit to memory because it's not going to be given to you. So now, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and do number 2 with you. The instructions are exactly the same. They want me to find an equation in slope-intercept form that passes through this point, 5, -1, with the slope of 3/5. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and label that this is x sub 1, y sub 1, and of course this is m, since that is the slope. Now I'm going to use the point slope form, and again, you're going to have to be able to commit this to memory and memorize it. It's going to be y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So these are the 3 items that are going to be replaced in the equation. So I'm going to replace y sub 1, m, and x sub 1. I'm going to go ahead and replace them with boxes to kind of remind me, hey, something's going to go in place of that. So here, I'm going to go ahead and replace the y sub 1 with a -1. If you don't like putting these boxes, that's totally fine. You're just going to have to make sure you put parentheses. Okay. Here I'm going to replace m with 3/5. You don't really have to put parentheses around this one. That's totally fine. But here, for x sub 1, again, if you don't want to put a box, you are going to have to put a parentheses, like so. So at this point, I'm going to just check to see if I need to distribute any negatives because we don't like minus minus. So here, because I don't like having a minus negative, I'm going to go ahead and distribute. A negative times a negative is a positive. And this is totally fine. So it's going to be y plus 1 equals 3/5 times the quantity x minus 5. Here is your point slope form. But again, they're not asking me for that. They want slope intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute these 3/5 to both terms. So here, 3/5 times x, that's easy. It's just 3/5 x. But 3/5 times -5, I'm going to have to do some side work there. So 3/5 times -5 over 1. I'm going to notice that I can cross cancel here by 5, leaving me with -1. So this is going to be a -3. So now I have y plus 1 equals 3/5 x minus 3. That's what I got here. Now, in order to get into slope-intercept form, again, I'm trying to get it to be y equals mx plus b. So I need to isolate y by subtracting 1 from both sides, leaving me with y equals 3/5 x minus 4. So this is your slope-intercept form. I can clearly see the slope is 3/5, and that b is a -4. Okay, so now let's take a look at another example that's going off the same idea, but it definitely looks different. So they're going to ask me to write the equation of the line below in slope-intercept form. So normally in the past, what we've done is find b, find m, and then just go from there. However, notice b is not a nice integer, so I can't really use that method. I'm going to have to use point slope form. So in order to do that, I need at least one point. I'm going to go ahead and pick this point right here, which is negative 2 comma 3, and then I must find the slope. So here, the slope is going down 2 over to the right 3, so that's a negative 2/3 as a slope. Now that I have these two pieces of information, I'm just going to use point slope form. I'm going to replace y sub 1 with 3. I'm going to replace m with negative 2/3 and x sub 1 with negative 2. So again, you can put boxes here just to kind of remind yourself, but it's going to be overall a good idea to always make sure you put parentheses. So here, y sub 1 is a 3. I'm not going to have to distribute that because that's totally fine. Slope is a negative 2/3, and x sub 1 is a negative 2. Now here's where it's going to cause a dilemma. So I am going to have to distribute that. Negative times a negative is going to make it positive. So now this is what I'm left with. It just turned from a minus negative to positive. Now here's your point slope form, but again, that's not what they're asking us for. This is what they want. So I'm going to have to distribute. Negative 2/3 x is just negative 2/3 x, but negative 2/3 times 2, I'm going to have to work that out. That's going to be a negative 4/3. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. And at this point, we're almost there. We just need to isolate y, so I need to add 3 to both sides. Here, they are going to eliminate each other. And again, this is going to stay the same, but I'm going to have to simplify this. So I'm going to do negative 4/3 plus 3 over 1. Now, I need a common denominator. I can totally make 1 into a 3. I'm going to go ahead and do that by multiplying both the numerator and denominator by 3. So now it's negative 4 plus 3 times 3, which is 9 over 3. That's going to be 5/3. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to 5/3, and there you have it. Whoops. This is my equation in slope-intercept form, where my slope is negative 2/3 and my y-intercept is 5/3. So just something to keep in mind. Just because you end up with fractions doesn't mean it's wrong. Okay, I noticed that some of you do that. Just make sure your work is done correctly. If so, it's totally okay if your answers have fractions. Okay, so now, looking at number 4, it says write the equation of the line passing through the points 4, 3 and 6, 8. So you'll notice in this case, we're given 2 order pairs. So essentially, we at least have 1 point, but we don't have a slope. Now, is that the end of the world? Absolutely not. I've taught you in the past how to find slope off of 2 order pairs. So let's go ahead and do that since we're on a roll with using point slope form. I'm going to find the slope by subtracting second y minus first y, second x minus first x. So here, I'm going to end up with a slope of 5/2. Now what I need to do is go ahead and use point slope form. But at this point, you need to actually decide which point are you going to use, 4, 3 or 6, 8. Does it matter which one you use? No. Generally speaking, is there one usually better than the other? In most cases, not all. So in this case, I would prefer you to use 4, 3. Why? Because the numbers are smaller and they're both positive numbers. So those are some 2 things you want to look for. Is it, again, wrong if I chose to use 6, 8 instead? No, you would still get the same answer. So now that I've picked a point and now that I have a slope, I'm just going to go ahead and plug it in. Notice this is x sub 1 and this is y sub 1. So here, y sub 1 was replaced with a 3. And again, parentheses would be a good idea. And slope is going to be replaced with 5/2, and x sub 1 is going to be replaced with a 4. So at this point, I don't really have to distribute any negatives because everything looks fine. So now all I would have to do is first recognize that this is my point slope form, and then I'm just going to have to distribute. So 5/2 x is 5x times, 5 halves times x is just 5 halves x. 5 halves times negative 4, I'm actually going to have to work that off on my side. 5 halves times negative 4 over 1. I can cross cancel by 2, so 2 divided by 2 is 1. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, so that's going to give me negative 10. So now I'm left with this here. Now again, in order to get in slope-intercept form, I need to isolate y. So I need to get rid of this minus 3 by adding 3 to both sides. So I'm going to end up with y equals 5 halves x minus 7. So that is my point slope form. Here is my slope, and this is my y-intercept. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is go ahead and pause the video and try this one on your own. Okay, so let's see how well you did. So hopefully you found the slope and you ended up with negative 7/5. Okay, then you use point slope form. You replace the y sub 1, the slope, and x sub 1. So just a friendly reminder, it doesn't matter which one you choose. Okay, in this case, I did choose 3 comma negative 1, just the numbers are relatively a little bit smaller. I'm going to plug it in. Notice negative 1 was replaced for x sub 1, and 3 was replaced for x sub 1. And of course, slope was replaced with negative 7/5. Now here, I don't want to have a minus negative, so I am going to distribute, which is going to change it to y plus 1 equals the following. So at this step, notice I went ahead and also distributed. Negative 7/5 x is negative 7/5 x. Negative 7/5 times negative 3. Notice I couldn't cross cancel, and that's what left me with a positive 21/5. Now, last but not least, I need to go ahead and isolate y by subtracting 1 from both sides. That's going to cancel. Here, I'm going to have to do some side work. We have 21/5 minus 1 over 1. I can definitely make a 1 into a 5 by multiplying this by 5, multiplying by 5. So I'm left with 21 minus 1 times 5, which is 5, over 5. So this is going to leave me with, let's see, 21 minus 5, 16/5. So here you have it. My equation in slope-intercept form is y equals negative 7/5 x plus 16/5. Okay, so let's go ahead and have you try number 6 on your own as well. Okay, so hopefully first you found the slope. You did difference in y over the difference in x. You always do second minus first. I got a slope of negative 2/11. So notice either way you write it, it's still the same. I actually prefer to write it like so. But again, it really doesn't matter. It means the same thing. We're going to go ahead and replace y sub 1, slope, and x sub 1. In this case, I'm using these numbers here because they're relatively smaller. And I'm going to go ahead and use those for y sub 1, x sub 1, and I'm going to replace slope with negative 2/11. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and do two things at the same time. I'm going to get rid of this minus negative. I'm going to distribute that. I'm also even going to distribute the negative 2/11 to both of these terms, which is going to leave, oh, by the way, keep forgetting, this is called your point slope form. I'm going to be left with y plus 3, y because negative times negative is plus, and I'm left with negative 2/11 x plus 8/11. If you're wondering why it's plus, it's because a negative times a negative is a positive. If you're wondering how I got 8/11, you're just going to have to do some side work and do negative 2/11 times negative 4/1. You can't cross cancel, so that's how you got 8/11. Now we're almost done. We have to isolate y, so I need to go ahead and get rid of this plus 3 by subtracting 3 from both sides. This is going to go away. I'm going to actually have to work this out. 8/11 minus 3, I'm going to go ahead and put it over 1. Our lowest common denominator is going to be 11, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply both the numerator and denominator by 11, leaving me with 8 minus 3 times 11 is 33 Our denominator is going to be 11, so that's going to be negative, let's see, about 25 over 11. So our equation is y equals negative 2/11 x minus 25 over 11. Okay. So here, notice it says, again, the same instructions, write the equation of the line passing through the points 2 comma negative 3 and negative 1 comma negative 3. We're going to go ahead and just work this out. We're going to find the slope. We always do difference in y over difference in x, second minus first. And notice here I get 0 over negative 3. Whenever there's a 0 involved with a fraction, you need to ask yourself, are you allowed to have 0 in the numerator? The answer is yes. The only thing you're not allowed to do is divide by 0. Okay, that would be undefined. So here, 0 divided by negative 3 is 0. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it into slope, point slope form. I'm going to go ahead and replace x sub 1, y sub 1, and slope. I need to choose between the two. I'm going to go ahead and pick this one right here. I'm going to go ahead and substitute the numbers in. Here I'm going to simplify by distributing that negative over and distributing here, leaving me with y plus 3 equals 0. I just need to get rid of that 3 by subtracting 3 from both sides. So y equals negative 3. Now hopefully you recognize something from the two ordered pairs. If not, you will eventually. Okay? If you were to graph these two ordered pairs, so 2 comma negative 3 and negative 1 comma negative 3, you would realize that this graph cuts through the y-axis where? At negative 3. Hence the equation y equals negative 3. So if the slope is 0 or undefined, simply look at the ordered pairs. Okay, so here it's going to be y equals a number because it's cutting through the y-axis. It's going to be x equals because it's cutting through the x-axis. Or just understand that this is 1 comma 2 and this is 2 comma 2. Notice the 2's repeated where? In the y coordinates, hence the equation y equals 2. Same idea here. This is 2 comma 1 and this would be 2 comma 0. So hopefully you recognize that the 2's repeated in the x coordinates, hence x comma 2. Okay, so now same idea. You're going to look at this one. It says write the equation of the line passing through the points 5 comma negative 2 and 5 comma 7. We're going to find the slope. I'm going to prove my point. We're going to get a slope of 9 over 0. Again, you're not allowed to divide by 0, so this would actually be undefined. So it's just x equals 5. But again, you could have recognized here, oh look, 5s are both the x coordinates. That's why it's x equals 5. I will prove it to you as I graph it. Here, you can even see it. It does cross through the x-axis at 5. So here it asks me to find the equation of the line given the following information. I'm going to recognize, oh look, the y's were 4, so the equation must be y equals 4. Here, the x values were 8, so the equation must be x equals 8. Now here it's a little bit tricky. It says the slope is 0. When the slope is 0, it should look like something like this. Okay, so if you think about an axis, is it cutting through the x or through the y? Well, it's cutting through the y-axis, so I would say this is a y equals. Since my y is a 5, I would say y equals 5. What about number 12? It says here 6 comma 1 and the slope is undefined. So again, starting with just a graph, ask yourself, if it's undefined, what kind of line should you expect to see? I would expect to see a vertical line. So here, notice it's cutting through which axis? It's cutting through the x-axis, so this is definitely going to be x equals. And since x equals 6, I'm going to say my equation is x equals 6. So that's it for today's lesson. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, until next time, bye.